I need a 30 for 30 to show that I'm different like Jordan and Pippen, you bitch. I need a 30 for 30 like Jalen and Webber. Nobody gon' fuck on my clique. I need a 30 for 30. All right, we got another segment of How About Them Cowboys with my brother Ray Cesar. Leo, what's happening, man?
Man, you got it, brother. Always glad to hop on with you.
Man, if America, if it seems like I have a look of disdain on my face right now, it's because my brother really been cutting up. And I try to keep him an upbeat, hopeful Cowboy fan. But I told y'all he's the pulse of Cowboy Nation. Yeah. And he's a diehard, as diehard as you can get about a team. And he just be keeping it 100, but he go too far sometime, America.
Sometimes. Yeah, no
he
doubt.
goes too far sometimes. But that's neither here nor there.
Right.
Brother, y'all 2-7.
Yeah.
But you're only a game and a half back in NFCs.
In most cases, you hear 2-7 and you say, all right, so what are we doing next year? That's the natural response to that, and rightly so.
Right.
But when you're talking about Jerry Jones, you may very well hear we're 2-7, but we're a game and a half out of first place. So why not? This is what I mean by, like, who are you in this moment? Are you a fan? Are you Jerry Jones? Are you somewhere in between like myself? Yes, I'm a fan, but I also live in reality. Like, as a fan, I want them to compete. Mm-hmm. As a competitor, I want them to compete. But I also realize, like, man, there aren't a lot of 7-9 playoff teams. We haven't had many of those in the NFL's history. And even when you do get that, they don't go on to do anything productive in the postseason. So I hear 2-7. I hear a game and a half. That means nothing to Ray. But we're not talking about Ray. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Jerry Jones. So what does that mean to him? That means that Andy Dalton is coming back. I may very well have a chance, because the fact of the matter is this: the Cowboys have the second easiest schedule record-wise, and we can get into that however you want to do it. But record-wise, the Cowboys have the second easiest schedule in the second half, the back half of their schedule. So, you know, it's just one of those things where you look at it and you say, well, these guys may very well have an opportunity to make the playoffs.
And y'all got Andy coming back, right?
You got Andy coming back. You also have the Redskins on your schedule, the Eagles on your schedule again, the Giants on your schedule, the 49ers, the Ravens, and we got the Minnesota Vikings coming up. So record-wise, it's promising. But when you really dig down into it, the records are misleading. Yes, the Baltimore Ravens have lost a couple of games, but the Cowboys can't beat the Ravens. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like the New York Giants don't have the best record in the world, but they're steadily improving. Daniel Jones is coming to his own. They just beat the Philadelphia Eagles, who were the number one seed in the NFC East. Just beat them this past weekend. Mm-hmm. So you can't look at records and say the second easiest schedule. How many of those teams can you beat? On the remaining portion of our schedule, I can't see us beating anybody. Honestly, I can't see the Cowboys beating anybody but the Washington Redskins. And that's just because I don't believe in what they have as a team. I think they have a great coach. I think they have a fighter and a quarterback, but I don't know if they have all the pieces together. Mm-hmm. But they can still end up beating us too, because the culture is ours today. The rest of those teams I mentioned, Minnesota, Baltimore, San Francisco, the Giants, the Eagles, they all can beat us, man. And we'll be looking at, you know, a top 5 pick. As of last weekend, the Cowboys have a top 5 pick. If the season ended today, the Cowboys are in the top 5. Mm-hmm. So as an owner, as a general manager, you have to look at that and say, do I want to make a run at the postseason where I know I'm going to get blasted in the first round? Or do I want to start to look at, hey, man, I could possibly get a top 5 pick who can have a real impact on this team moving forward?
Your defense then, going forward. As of right now, y'all still at the bottom of the league. Of course, y'all coming off a bye, so of course one thing gonna change.
Sure.
But giving up 32.2 points per game.
Yep.
Do you see that improving going forward then as the schedule kind of eases up some?
Historically bad on the surface. Historically bad on the surface because they played such trash football defensively in the first half of the season until the last 2 games. If there is a bright point that you could point out, the defense has truly stepped up. And I think that's a symbol of pride. They faced the Giants. They lost to the Giants, but they also played a decent game against the Giants. They just had a third-string quarterback in Ben DiNucci that couldn't move the ball offensively with the offense. When they played against the Steelers, I think it was their best performance defensively. Again, they had a fourth-string quarterback that was hot in the first half, but it was his first start ever, so he couldn't, sustain it through 4 quarters. And they played against Ben Roethlisberger, who was a Hall of Fame quarterback. And so you don't expect the defense, if they give up 32 points a game, to be flawless for 4 quarters. That's an unrealistic expectation, and I didn't expect that, to be quite honest with you, right? I think if you can look as a team and as a defense to say, man, we held our own against the Pittsburgh defeated team, whom I hate, for the record. But if you see that and you see the production that you've put together, that should give you some confidence moving on in this second half of the season off your bye week. I don't know what that looks like. We talk about culture every week on this show. We'll see what that means and what that looks like moving forward for these men to say, hey, we know we can play. We know we're better than what we put out there. Let's see what it can look like. If your defense leads the way and they play hard enough and they compete hard enough and they, say to themselves, hey, man, we can do this. We can keep our offense in games. Then, yeah, as Jerry Jones, you may want to make a push to the postseason because you see that guys are willing to buy in. But if it's the same old, then just start getting ready for the offseason. They got some positive points coming back for them. Chidobe Awuzie, the best defensive back that we have, the best cornerback that we have, is coming back after not playing since week 2. He went out, I think, like first half of week 2 versus the Seattle Seahawks, and was playing some good ball as much as you can account for 2 weeks. But that'll be a big improvement to the secondary after we lost our rookie defensive back, Trayvon Diggs. And so we'll see what that looks like to have him back in and to have a little bit more, assuredness that your defensive backfield is in the right spot. You never know until they play, man. But I will say, I'm always ragging on these guys, but in the last 2 weeks, the defense has truly stepped up and shown that they have a little bit of pride, man, when it comes to competing on the field.
All right, let me pull your coat on this then, brother. And again, this is just this coming from somebody who's just intrigued by the Cowboys. I watch out as much as I can. Like I told you, I got the best soap opera in sports. And I've always been skeptical of Zeke, even when he was putting up crazy numbers. I used to say it was y'all stud offensive line. That's why I used to say, just to be clear and be consistent. But right now, just with my eye test, when I watch y'all, and I'm just seeing which one of your backs is just running that thing harder. Which one of your backs looks more explosive? It seems like Pollard to me. Would you agree, disagree with that? And if you do agree with that, going forward, given the fact y'all only a game and a half back, getting Andy Dalton back, getting your stud defensive back, would you choose to give Pollard the majority of the snaps, even though y'all done gave Zeke all that money?
It's a lot that goes into that. And again, you got to break it down for who the person is. For Ray, I understand what this is. This part is easy for me. Like, a lot of this is, I've never been a general manager or an owner or a player for that matter, but this one is real easy. Tony Pollard is fresher because he hasn't had as many carries, right? Tony Pollard is playing for another contract. His contract is coming up. So he's motivated to prove what he can do. So those two things, if nothing else, will show you who Tony Pollard is today. All we can focus on is today. Tony Pollard is a backup that doesn't have as many miles on him. Tony Pollard is a guy who's fighting for a second contract, with or without the Cowboys. He knows his money is on the line. Zeke, there's a certain level of comfort there because he has his money. He's the highest paid running back in the NFL, right, wrong, or indifferent. That's the reality. And he also knows that he has a guy behind him that is talented enough that when he steps out, can do productive numbers, if you know what I mean. Not Zeke numbers, but productive numbers. As a guy, as Ray, you look at Zeke and you say, you should probably take offense that they're taking you out of the game for
I noticed that a lot. That's what made me,
right? And for entire drive, they're taking you out of the game. But I don't know if Zeke is that guy. I can't speak for Zeke. That's something that in his own world, in his own room, he has to look in the mirror and say to himself, man, I can't believe that my name is being mentioned in the same breath as Tony Pollard. No shot at Tony Pollard, but he's not Ezekiel Elliott, right? But the other thing is this. If Ezekiel Elliott is looking at that and saying, I got my money from a coach's standpoint, then I want the guy in there who's hungry. Because at the running back position, you need a guy who's willing to say, give me the ball, let me get positive yardage, let me fight for extra yardage, because that means on the back end, I'm going to be more marketable. If Zeke don't have the juice in his heart and soul, then he's not going to fight for the extra yard. I think what you have seen, though, to Zeke's defense, I think what you have seen is Tony Pollard has gotten more carries. You've seen a better version of Zeke. You really have. He's been trying to show himself as saying, man, I don't want to be in the same conversation as Tony Pollard. I don't want to lose my starting spot to Tony Pollard. I don't want to have this conversation. It's a little too late for me, because I've learned my lesson now. In this new age NFL, you don't pay running backs top-notch money. That's from a managerial standpoint. From a fan standpoint, I think guys like Christian McCaffrey, what's my guy's name down in New Orleans, who's, in my opinion, the best running back in the league?
Alvin Kamara.
I think guys like that should be paid because they do more than just run. They pass protect. Them in the passing game is very impressive. But it's just, when I see a guy like Zeke and Ty Gurley, man, and the names can just go on and on.
Ooh, folks don't even talk about Ty no more.
You got to be careful when you and it's kind of ironic that the two top paid running backs in the league are Ty Gurley and Ezekiel Elliott, right? Guys that have had a lot of miles on them, a lot of carries, led the league in rushing, led the league in touchdowns. But a running back's best investment is at the top of their career when they're hungry. That's what you're seeing from Tony Pollard right now. I hope Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard and Ty Gurley, who I have a lot of respect for in that matter, continue to add to their legacies. But the fact of the matter is this, man, once running backs get their money, they kind of tail off. And I think that's because they know that they're comfortable. Running back more than any other position in football, man, it's a mindset. It's a mindset. You got to be hungry to fight for that extra yard and that extra touchdown.
I'm glad you spoke on that. I ain't want to come off as a Cowboy hater or Zeke hater or anything like that.
That's real. That's
real,
just, man.
When Pollard been getting the ball, it seemed like he been popping off the screen a little more than Zeke. Now, against the Steelers, I saw Zeke running a little hard. I saw this a couple times. I saw that a couple times. You know what I'm saying? So that'll be interesting going forward.
But to your point, though, why does it take that? You know what I mean? Like, the Steelers defense is one of the tougher defenses we played all season. Why does it take you going up against that when you played against the Giants, the Eagles, the Browns? You know what I'm saying? Defenses that are lesser than. Why did it take all of a sudden? Because he saw.
So I was chopping it up more to all the hits, but sound like you're chopping it up more to the motivation factor.
I'm chopping it up to the competition, man. You know how it is, man. You play a pickup game of basketball. You may be hurt, you may be sore, you may have had multiple surgeries on certain body parts, man. But when it's time to compete, you don't want anybody to show you up. You know what I mean? And I think Zeke is seeing that Tony Pollard is taking advantage of this opportunity where nobody is expecting anything of not just him, but the Cowboys, and using it to his advantage. Zeke sees that, and now he's stepping up. That's just the reality of it. Competition is real. Competition breeds bringing out the best in people. That's why I say, sometimes, man, these team, everybody gets a trophy award. That can be detrimental because competition breeds excellence.
Well, let me tell you this then. Y'all next competition, y'all next game is against who?
Against the Minnesota Vikings.
I got the Vikes. You got Dalvin Cook.
You know, and I was just about to say,
you
see Dalvin Cook? Dalvin Cook, to me, is one of the top 3 running backs in the league today. People can fluctuate on who they think the best running back is. Like I said, for my dollar is Alvin Kamara. But if Dalvin Cook walks in the room and looks at me, I'm gonna say, okay, Alvin, you got, Dalvin, you got it today. You know what I mean? Watch the way he runs. Yes, his offensive line is better, but watch his determination. He also doesn't have a big time contract. It's a difference in a running back that knows that big money is on the line versus a running back that already has the money and is set. Zeke has $50 million in guaranteed money. Whether he does anything else, he's got guaranteed money that some DBs and corners don't even see. That's a reality. So I can't expect him to have the same hunger as a Tony Pollard or a Dalvin Cook. And Tony Pollard and Dalvin Cook are not in the same conversation. Dalvin Cook is light years ahead of Tony Pollard, okay?
My Packers had a chance to draft Dalvin Cook too, by the way, but that's neither here nor there.
It's a reality check, and you're gonna see it. You're gonna see it when they play against each other, man. This dude is uber talented. I love to watch him play. Watch him play last night, a couple of nights ago. Monday Night Football. This guy is the real deal, man.
So it sounds like
who's gonna win the battle?
You taking the Vikings?
I'm always taking the Cowboys because
I know who you're going for.
Because I'm ridiculous. I'm taking the Cowboys. But when we talk about what they have over there, man, I watched them play a game that they should have won pretty handily against Chicago Bears, and they just were kind of going through the motions. But when it came winning time, Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen did what they needed to do. When it becomes winning time for the Cowboys, we want to do well. We really do. We really mean well. We just don't have the pieces. Pieces in this game is going to be the difference. The Minnesota Vikings will win. I hate to say that. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I come on here next week and say, man, I'm ashamed that I went against my boys. But, reality check at this point. The reality of it is this. Ray Coleman, the Cowboys fan, wants us to lose every game the rest of the way so we can figure out what we can do with a top 5 pick.
Well, that is another segment of How About Them Cowboys, my brother Ray Caesar Leo. Appreciate you, boy.
Man, love you as always, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Love.
Go.
Subscribe to our daddy's YouTube channel. He's the best. Hit the like button, turn on the notifications.